Welcome back to another episode of the Eek of the Week. I'm your host, Albert Einstein, but you can call me Allie with an OWL. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. I'm going to switch it up this time. I'm going to change the subject matter of what we're talking about. I don't know if you noticed, but the copyright disclaimer that I attached in the intro music is for a reason for this next subject that we're going to be discussing. Well, a person rather. She is very quick to copyright strike anybody that has anything bad to say about her. She doesn't like anybody outside of her little hug box saying anything disparaging about her, but this is purely for educational purposes only and for entertainment. And the entire broadcast, this entire podcast, is solely my opinion, and take it as that. It's just an opinion. Everybody's got one. You know the saying. So we're going to get into a new series of what I'm going to call LolCows. And I have a definition pulled up right here of what a LolCow is for anybody that has no idea what I'm talking about. A LolCow is an internet slang term used to describe a person who consistently and unintentionally provides content that others find ridiculous, embarrassing, or cringeworthy, often to the point of mockery and ridicule. The term is a combination of LOL or laugh out loud and cash cow, implying that the person is a continual source of entertainment, of laughter, especially for online communities. Couple key traits of a LolCow is they are unintentionally funny or absurd behavior online. Often overshares personal information or opinions in public forums. They react defensively or irrationally to criticism, fueling more attention. They become a subject of ongoing mockery, especially on forums like Kiwi Farms or certain subreddits or YouTube reaction channels, if you will, or little podcast over here on Spotify. No, we're not going to mock or, say anything disparaging. This is purely for educational purposes and for documentary style narrations. No, and again, it's purely for entertainment. Important note, while the term is commonly used in online communities, it can veer into harassment or cyberbullying, which is true. Especially when people go out of their way to provoke or stalk the individual for entertainment. So while the concept may be used jokingly, it can have real-world emotional and psychological consequences for the person targeted. So that is what a LolCow is, and I'm going to do an entire series on a bunch of them that I have listened to, followed, watched their content for years. Especially this one. We're talking about Chantal Sarot, aka Foodie Beauty. She has had a YouTube channel for 9 or 10 years now, and I've been following along every step of the way. I've been a quiet follower. I have not even so much as commented or even liked one of her videos, and there's reason for that. Again, those are my opinions, and I'm allowed to have them. I've been a quiet follower for a very long time. And then when the reaction channel community started popping up, as people people would provide commentary, or they would create a reaction channel reacting to her content, either live or pre-recorded videos or something like that. I find that just as fascinating and cringeworthy as well. I don't know about any of you, but I am very much into like cringeworthy content that just makes your skin crawl. It's like it's like the train wreck theory is you know it's awful, it's bad, but you can't stop watching. You can't look away. And I need to stress again that this is for entertainment purposes only. This woman likes to copyright strike, as I mentioned before. She likes to claim that people are stealing her content when they use images or video or audio that she has previously posted on her YouTube channel. Which there's, as you saw in my copyright claim, not claim, the Fair Use Act is a thing where anything found, any kind of, entertainment or publication of any sort, it does allow for commentary, it does allow for research, and education, anything like that. If something that you're putting out on the internet is subject to fair use, And you kind of signed up for that when you created your YouTube channel and when you started uploading content. You do not have the right to prevent that kind of use of your content. Anything that you're putting out into the internet is forever, and people are allowed to use it, watch it, consume it, and reproduce it. Not reproduce it in a way that, they are stealing content, but if it is a channel or a podcast or something like that discussing these people, they do have a right to comment. They do have a right to educate on certain subjects that may be found in this content. So let's just be clear about that. All right, let's get into it. This is called, and I prompted the bot again. This is what I do over here is I prompt AI bots to create stories for me to narrate. They've mostly been horror stories. I did a series on serial killers. I did a series on cults. And now I'm going to get into the LolCows series. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun because, again, I am very much into like cringeworthy content. And it just, these people make me laugh, and, that should be a compliment to these creators, is that you're making people laugh. This one is called Feast and Fallout, The Rise and Unraveling of Foodie Beauty. Let me scroll down a little bit. All right, let's get into it. In the digital age where influencers rise and fall with the tides of public opinion, few stories are as tumultuous as that of Chantal Sarrau, better known to her audience as Foodie Beauty. From mukbangs to international controversies, her online journey is a testament to the volatile nature of internet fame. Chapter 1: Origins and Online Ascent. Chantal Sarrau, hailing from Ottawa, Canada, began her YouTube journey in 2017. Initially focusing on beauty and lifestyle content, she soon found a niche in mukbang videos, broadcasting herself consuming large quantities of food while interacting with her audience. Her candidness about personal struggles, including battles with food addiction and mental health, garnered a dedicated following. Chapter 2: Patterns of Controversy. As her subscriber count grew, so did scrutiny. Viewers noted a recurring cycle: declarations of lifestyle changes followed by regressions into previous habits. This pattern led to criticism and concern, with some accusing her of exploiting her health issues for content. Despite this, Chantal maintained a loyal fan base drawn to her unfiltered persona. Her followers are called Beezers, a term coined by Chantal herself as just being or misbehaving. I think it started with her cat, Sam. I can dig a little bit deeper. This might be a part 1 of this episode because the prompt that I gave the bot, I need to add more detail to it. Because there's a whole lot that just in the first 2 chapters of this narration that it provided is missing. And I want to go through the whole gambit, and because there's a whole lot of facets to this story. We're going to call this a part 1, and then I'll do a part 2, adding some more detail in there. So let's get on with this one. Where were we talking? Oh, we were talking about what it means to bees, because that is a very popular term over there in the Chantal universe. It basically means to misbehave, or, we're hanging out, or she says it all the time. I just want a bees, which means she wants to do what she wants to do when she wants to do it. All right. Chapter 3, the Kuwaiti chapter. In late 2022, Chantal announced a significant life change, a move to Kuwait after marrying Salah Al-Rafai. Please forgive me for mispronouncing. This transition marked a new phase, with Chantal adopting Islamic practices and rebranding herself as Chantal Al-Rafai. However, her content continued to stir controversy, particularly regarding cultural appropriation and the authenticity of her conversion. Citing kiwifarms.net for all the information right there. Chapter 4, Recent Turmoil and Allegations. In early 2025, Chantal faced renewed backlash over a series of events involving a kitten rescue in Kuwait. She claimed to have saved a stray kitten, soliciting donations from her audience for its care. However, discrepancies in her story led to accusations of deceit and exploitation. Critics argued that she manipulated her audience's emotions for financial gain, especially in light of Kuwait's strict regulations against unauthorized fundraising. Further complicating matters, reports emerged suggesting that Chantal and Salah may have violated local laws, leading to potential legal consequences. The situation escalated as online communities dissected her actions, with some calling for accountability and transparency. Chapter 5. The Broader Implications. Chantal's trajectory underscores the complexities of internet fame. Her story reflects the challenges influencers face in maintaining authenticity while navigating personal struggles in the public eye. It also highlights the ethical considerations of monetizing personal narratives, especially when involving sensitive topics like health and cultural identity. Chantal Sarrau's journey as Foodie Beauty serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of online notoriety. As audiences become more discerning, the line between genuine content and exploitation continues to blur, prompting a reevaluation of the influencer-audience dynamic in the digital age. And that's it for the AI prompted script here. However, we can dig a little bit deeper, and I think I'm going to touch on each of these chapters individually. I may not have to do a part 2. Let me pause real quick, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. The magic of editing is I can come and go as I please. I can take as much time as I need on here. So I actually prompted the bot again to break down some of these chapters into more detailed, like a timeline of events rather, and then I can kind of expound on that and give you what I know or what I've seen. I do not have specific sites, but I do know that a lot of this information can be found on YouTube itself, Kiwi Farms, subreddits, TikTok, all the other socials where, people have commented and shared, whatever. I was getting ready to say to subscribe, but don't subscribe to her if you want. But you should subscribe to this podcast. All right. So going back up, I'm going to kind of scroll back and forth between these prompts. Going back up to the Origins and Online Ascent, Chapter 1, where we were talking about Chantal was born in Ottawa, Canada, specifically in Cornwall, to a teenage mother. I would say, and again, all of this is my opinion, I would say that her childhood was not terrible, but not the greatest. She was provided for, and I guarantee her mother did the best that she could. But at the same time, there was also neglect there, because you can't not attribute some of her, she's over 40 years old now. I think she's 41 or 42. You can't not attribute some of her adult behaviors to the way that she was raised. And that's simple psychology, is that the way you're molded, the way you're raised has a lot to do with your adult behaviors. And has she gotten help for any of it at all? Absolutely not. I think she's been to maybe a couple therapists over the years, but it's always the first appointment, and that's where it ends. It never continues, it never perpetuates, and there's never actually any true progress made on her mental health. Speaking of mental health, she does deal with binge eating disorder, food addiction, I believe a touch of sociopathy. How do you pronounce that? She's just a sociopath, maybe with narcissistic tendencies. But that's also, again, she's a product of her raising. She had no control over that. She was just a kid. And now I say that to say is that as an adult, you have control of your own mind. You have control of your own behaviors. You have the ability to correct the wrongs that were done. You have the ability to heal from any of the trauma that you've experienced. You absolutely have that right. And I encourage you, Chantal, if you ever see this ever, I doubt it, because all of my 6 followers have absolutely no idea who you are yet. You absolutely have that opportunity, and all you have to do is say the word, and you'll get the help. But you have to want help. That's how addiction works. Is that you have to want to be helped. You have to want to be healed. You have to want to get rid of the sickness. It's a sickness, in my opinion. Let's jump down to, we just got done talking about chapter 1. So 2017, early beginnings on YouTube, channel creation. Chantal launches her YouTube channel, Foodie Beauty, initially focused on beauty reviews, personal vlogs, and lifestyle content. Now, I remember some of the earlier videos of Chantal's were actually super cute. She was, is a plus size lady doing beauty reviews because she's comfortable in her own skin, never has cared that she's plus size, but I also think deep down she does care, because she believes that is any kind of criticism that comes from anybody ever, it's because she's fat. I mean, yes, you're fat, but that's not why you get criticized. It's not always about your weight. But I think that's your projection onto any type of criticism that you receive is, oh, well, it's because I'm fat. You have, nothing else to criticize me over because I'm fat. Not the case. Transition to mukbangs. She quickly shifts to mukbang content where she eats large amounts of food on camera while interacting with viewers. So initially she started doing pre-recorded content where she would get this giant meal of whatever kind of fast food, or even sometimes she would cook food on her own. And I always enjoyed when she cooked. Not that she's a great cook, but I always enjoyed when she would cook her food as opposed to ordering out. Sometimes you would see her devour an entire pizza, every bite dipped in ranch, or you would see her with meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and, just a home-cooked meal. Either way, the portions are just absolutely ridiculous. Me being a plus-size woman myself, but I do not eat those portions. I do suffer from PCOS and insulin resistance, therefore it makes it 1,000 times harder for me to lose weight and keep it off. Shout out to my PCOS girlies. But Chantal would always, I remember there being a Taco Bell video. I wish I could tag these videos in this podcast, but I mean, it's just for your listening. Yes, I'm doing video, but for your listening pleasure or repulsion. She had a Taco Bell mukbang one time that looked so good to me. Because I love Taco Bell. That's probably like my number one, like, trash restaurant because the food's trash. It is what it is. But the Taco Bell one was probably, like, I'm going to call it my favorite mukbang of hers just because I wanted all of the food that she was eating. Very rarely do I ever find anything that she's eating appetizing. It's very hard for me to watch sometimes, at least in the old videos. I mean, like in the beginning when she first started doing mukbangs, she'd have these horrible, like, fake nails put on her fingers, and they looked like one of the reaction channels referred to them as guitar picks, and and I could never get that out of my head. What else? She has had many, many moments in some of her old videos where she just completely makes a fool of herself. And I don't even think she realized she did it at that point. She has farted on camera. She's burped. I don't think there's been actual, like, vomit or, like, any kind of feces happening. But, yeah, farts and burps are a common thing. And she just doesn't care. There's no shame. There were a couple times where she has choked on her food, and that has been a couple highlights for, it's been, reaction channel fodder for years. And again, it's the cringe element to it, is that you're watching this very rotund lady consume large amounts of food, and it's to the point where she starts choking on her food, so it's kind of ironic. Next little bullet point here says rapid growth. Her unfiltered personality and openness about her struggles with weight, binge eating, and mental health attract a loyal following. Now, I will say that despite how cringy I believe her content is, and now that she's in the Kuwaiti era, or chapter, if you want to call it, now that she's in this chapter, she has gotten very boring. Whereas before, she was unfiltered. She showed her own personality. And she just was herself. And that's probably the one of the things that I admire about her, if not the only thing that I admire about her, is that she has always been unapologetically herself. Let's get further down. Actually, I'm going to scroll back up. So chapter 2, Patterns of Controversy. This one, As her subscriber count grew, so did scrutiny. Viewers started noticing her cycle. There's a cycle with Chantal, is that she would go, binge, binge, binge. And I believe not all of her videos were, of her binging, but I believe there are some out there where she did binge on camera. I do believe that. If I can find examples, I will put them in the comments down below. But she still maintained that loyal fan base. She had people just following along with her because I think, some not to consume the cringe part of it, but actually enjoying her content. And there's also a little, I don't want to say a darker side, but there's a more nefarious side. There's a group of people. I don't know if you would call it a community or maybe it is a community because it is like a fetishized thing. But yeah, there's a fetishized portion of this where a group of people called feeders will consume this type of content of very large women consuming very large amounts of food. They're called feeders. They get off on that kind of thing. I cannot relate whatsoever, but it's a thing where feeders will pay these large women. It's more than just Chantal out there that are, large ladies eating large amounts of food. That feeders will pay for them to create this type of content, and it's crazy that that's a thing, but still, again, my opinion. Let's get back to, all right, 2018 to 2020. The very beginning of the pandemic, mind you. Emotional transparency. Chantal frequently discusses her attempts at weight loss, veganism, and sobriety, but often relapses publicly. Now, this is a thing, and this is a pattern of cycles. She will, at the beginning of the cycle, she'll be excited to start a new health journey or her weight loss journey, whatever, or she'll call it a journey or a whatever she wants to call it. There was one time she went vegan for like a day, which means she'll start a health journey. She'll put out binging episodes where she just straight binges and just goes ham, and pardon the pun, because she just goes ham on whatever food she can get her hands on. It doesn't matter. I remember watching some of her videos where she would do a grocery haul and then proceed to eat just a little bit of everything that she got. Like there would be like chips and dip or something, or it would be like a bagel and cream cheese and maybe a little bit of like a bowl of cereal. It was like she would eat just a little bit of everything that she bought, and just sit there and, talk to her followers on live stream and just rake in the super chats. And then that's where she would next get into, this is next part of her cycle, where she would start deleting videos. She'd start deleting content that she thought was, oh, well, I can't show that, or I don't want the internet to think that happened, or, but as I said earlier, that the internet is forever. You can't just wipe away content that you yourself uploaded to the internet. And then she would return with a new plan, or a new day one, where she would start all over again, after she would crash out and just end up right back where she was before, binging and even raging over this or that, mainly reaction channels. I think that's really what gets her goat mostly. But yeah, there's a Chantal cycle. Community tensions. Viewers begin to notice manipulative tendencies, dishonesty, and emotionally charged outbursts, aka rages. I think her reaction channels, the community surrounding her, are like flies on a pile of shit. And honestly, they're buzzing around, and I mean, we all watch it. I consume it. Not gonna lie, I'm subscribed to multiple reaction channels. There are good ones, there are bad ones. There are some that I prefer over others. I'm not gonna say which ones those are. I'll let you just speculate. There's just as much toxicity in the reaction channel communities as there is in Chantal's universe herself. I have followed and watched a lot of these reaction channels, and over the years, some have changed. Like there was one I used to follow religiously. I would follow every time they uploaded until they got into, it's not something specific. It just kind of, they switched their format of how they were recording videos and reacting and stuff like that. And once they switched, they made that switch. I I stopped watching. And then there's some it was one, the original, and I don't want to name any names of the reaction channels. I'm going to be very vague there on purpose because this episode on my podcast is specifically about Foodie Beauty, Chantal. So if I feel led, I will do an episode on reaction channels. Because I have quite the laundry list that I would like to touch on there. But let's get through Chantal first. I feel like I'm all over the place with these, but it's whatever. We are going on almost half an hour. That's pretty good. Community tensions, we just read that one. Where Chantal would be manipulative is that she would kind of play and tug on the heartstrings of people, or she would just completely rage out, and she would berate and call out her actual followers. She would block anybody that had anything negative to say about anything. She would just rage out. Reaction channels emerge. And I just got done talking about reaction channels. Critical channels begin documenting and analyzing her behavior, including her eating habits, hygiene, drug use, and inconsistencies. So, like I said, there are these reaction channels that do just that. They follow her and they create commentary on her behaviors, which if you watch her for any amount of time, whether it's a week, a month, a year, she's consistent. She is consistently herself, and she always has been. She does the same behaviors. She acts the same way, regardless of where she's living, what country she's in, or what she's doing. 2021, an escalation into adult content and drug use allegations. OnlyFans and explicit content. In 2021, Chantal experiments with adult content, both on YouTube and platforms like OnlyFans. Begins to post sexually explicit material mixed with mukbangs. Admission to cocaine use. On stream, she reveals having used cocaine while dating a man later known as, and we're going to bleep his name, what can we call him? I don't want to use the famous nickname that another reaction channel uses for him. We can use the name that Chantal gave him herself before his name was actually found. We're going to call him Dom because that's what she called him in the beginning. That is not his actual name. I'm not going to use his actual name because he also likes to copyright strike. He also likes to try and take down anybody or anything that has anything negative to say about him. Again, this is commentary. This is my opinion. This is used for entertainment purposes only. I'm going to repeat myself until we are done with this whole Chantal episode. So Dom arc begins. She documents a chaotic and allegedly abusive relationship with Dom, a former chef with a criminal record. Accuses him of SA and physical abuse on stream, then repeatedly returns to him. Public concern grows. Many followers, even those who once supported her, express concern over her mental state and the exploitative nature of her content. So with this era, the Dom era, where she at the time was living in what the Beezers and reaction channels were calling the villa, which was her apartment that she rented with her longtime bestie, Pete's, who was also an ex-boyfriend that she cheated on, but he still lives with her. It was such a weird dynamic that I believe she was dating Pete's first, cheated on him with BB, who everyone says he's the one who got away. Is that he tolerated a lot of her bullshit and put up with her for years and years. I don't even know how long their relationship was, but he put up with a lot of her shit. And I think he is the one who got away for Chantal, is that I don't think she will ever find somebody as mild-mannered and as caring as he was. Now, maybe towards the end, you could kind of see where, and he would appear on videos sometimes, towards the end, you could see where he had had enough and he had kind of checked out. With good reason. As far as like the drug use and stuff like that, that was later on into, she was well into her popularity When she met this guy, Dom, that's when things kind of ramped up. It's like she added fuel to the fire, or the dumpster fire, I should say. She added fuel to that dumpster fire, and it was just set it ablaze when she started. I don't even want to say dating, because he never claimed to be dating her. I think it was a fling for him. I'm not going to even share my opinion on him. We're talking about Chantal, but when she was dating him, she claimed to love him, as that she fell in love. And then anytime that something went south or went sour, there would be nights where she'd come home, coked out of her mind, coming down from whatever kind of drugs that they did, the lack of sleep and the quote unquote abuse that she endured, while in his company. This was probably the peak of her popularity, is probably not the right word. Maybe infamy, the peak of her infamy. This is at the same time when she was making a lot of money, because of the cringeworthy aspect of it, is that every day you never knew what you were going to get. You never knew what she would be up to. You never knew if they were in a fight. You never knew if she was just coked out of her mind on YouTube, breaking TOS. It was a wild ride, and that was probably the peak for her. And I don't think she'll ever get back to that. Well, I say that, but like now, with most recent developments of her in Kuwait and this whole kitten rescue story, I believe that she might reach it again. That's assuming that I'm getting ahead of myself with this. It's assuming that things end badly for her in Kuwait, but we'll get there in just a little bit. Moving on down, late 2021 into 2022, decline in public image. Eviction threats and filth. Videos surface of her living in poor hygiene conditions. Fruit flies, cat neglect, and garbage. Animal welfare becomes a topic of concern. YouTube strikes and suspensions. Chantal faces multiple community guideline violations for nudity, harassment, and doxing. Monetization backlash. Accused of monetizing her trauma and using crises as clickbait. Now, that is something she absolutely did. Is she would title a video something like I was essayed, and something like that, just for clickbait, but then she would not elaborate, or she would basically evade any of the questions that her live audience was asking, just for clicks and views, to get that money. And she was also very careless with, at this time. I mean, if I was on drugs, doing meth and coke and all the drugs that you can think of, I would be careless too about what content I was posting on YouTube. And she would let parts of her body slip on live YouTube stream. We have seen more of Chantal than we ever wanted to see, and yet she still had a channel. She still maintained that. As far as like the animal welfare became concerned, is that in the backgrounds you could see the conditions that she was living in. They were basically not cleaning. There was no, changing of litter boxes. Again, I was mentioned her cats earlier. She had 2 cats, BBJ and Sam. You could see, she basically admitted as well that feeding them, she basically threw food on the floor on a plate, and that's how they were fed. And the same thing looked with her litter boxes, is that there was just excrement outside of the box, like it never got changed. It was just not clean, and that's just how she lived. All right, getting into next big step for her. October through December of 2022. Kuwait move and rebrand. So after all of the tumultuous, era that she was in with Dom, and all of the craziness that, like I said, it was so up and down that you never knew what was going to happen. You never knew when she would go live. You never knew what was going to come out of her mouth or what she'd be doing on cam. It was crazy, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It's like I said, cringe-worthy content is right up my alley. So it was a lot of fun to watch, and it was a lot of fun to see how the reaction channels commented on it. There was a lot of like inside jokes created. There was a lot of nicknames. Like I said before, there was a reaction channel that created a nickname for Dom that to this day still makes me giggle. But I refuse to use it. I refuse to use his actual name. So we'll just get into this next era of hers. Kuwait move and rebrand. Conversion to Islam. Chantal announces sudden conversion to Islam and begins wearing a hijab. She moves to Kuwait, travels there after announcing her online marriage. Well, they didn't get married online, to Salah Al Rafi. Again, please forgive the mispronunciations. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. A local man she met through Tinder. So she set her Tinder app. You can set the location to how far, and she went global. There is a lot of speculation and suspicion that he was part of a romance scam ring trying to scam somebody with romance, to get out of whatever country they were in and into Canada or America. It's happened before and it'll happen again. Not specifically with Salah, but she had a new persona. She rebrands herself as Chantal Al Rafi. Deleted a whole lot of her old content. So all of the cringy, embarrassing, foolish content that she was putting out there and kept up to be monetized, she was deleting all of that because now she's an Islamic woman wearing a hijab out of nowhere. And this ties back to her childhood. Is she didn't have a father in the picture, didn't really know her father growing up. She knew her stepfather. And I believe she has a half sister. Her stepfather and her mother have her younger sister. I can't think of her name at the top. Nicole, I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't think that's her name. She forgot where we were. See, this is a train wreck. My train derailed. Oh, this goes back to her childhood, is that she was so desperate for male attention, is that she would be willing to put up with a lot. And the Dom era should explain that in itself, is that she's willing to put up with a lot just for the attention of a man. I should say the romantic attention of a man or the physical attention from a man. And this is what led to her, after breaking things off with Dom and being completely done with him, to expand her circle on Tinder. And that's how this happened. This next chapter with Salah. She deleted a bunch of her old content, begins uploading Kuwait travel vlogs and cooking videos with Salah. I didn't think they did a lot of cooking together. I think she started doing mukbangs over there in Kuwait with like Arabic food. I just got a message. Cultural appropriation accusations. Critics question the legitimacy of her conversion and her rapid lifestyle shift. I believe that is absolutely legitimate, that people have questions and concerns about her complete 180 to convert to Islam. I believe that she did it. Again, this is my opinion. I'm allowed to have one. I believe that she completely converted to Islam for him. And out of desperation, moved across the globe to be with this man. Okay, moving on. Early to mid 2023. Legal trouble and online meltdowns. Oh, this was fun. So now that she's in Kuwait, she is not a citizen of Kuwait, despite being married to I don't even think he's a Kuwaiti citizen. He is from Syria. Sorry. He's from Syria. He's Syrian. Not even a Kuwaiti citizen himself. I believe that she had to keep maintaining her travel visa. So every few months she would go on different trips to renew her visa. And she denied it tooth and nail, but come on, like everybody knew that's what it was. She went back to Canada briefly, returns to Canada in mid-2023, likely due to visa issues. Still married to Salah, she maintains that she and Salah are married, despite skepticism from viewers who believe the relationship is transactional. As I mentioned before, as I believe myself that it is transactional, that maybe she paid to be with him, and maybe promised him a home in Canada, maybe promised him citizenship in Canada, just to be with him. Salah joins streams. He appears in streams and videos, often silent or awkward, leading to speculation that the relationship is for show. I would agree with that, as well as that any time that you would see him in a video, anytime that he would comment or anything like that, he would, it's just, you can tell physical, the body language, you can tell body language. Those two are not in love. Those two are not physically intimate. You can tell that the chemistry between two people. Even if if somebody was sitting right beside me, you could tell if it was a platonic, a friendship, or a romantic relationship. You can tell. And I don't know what they think they're trying to pull, because they have more chemistry than the blinds that I'm looking at. Anyway, poor example, but you get what I'm saying. They do not have any kind of chemistry, because you can tell he is not in love with her. She might be in love with him because she falls in love easily. Dom, we'll refer back to that. You can tell that he is not in love with her. He doesn't even want to be near her. You can you can tell they only sit close for show. And any kind of like physical touch that we do see from them, if they are out going to dinner, if they are out at a mall, or whatever kind of content that they are showing, any kind of physical touch from him, it's like the kind of physical touch you would give a grandparent. Even a hug is kind of, not like you don't like hugging your grandma, but it was like it looked like he had to be gentle, or like it was forced. I'll just get right. It was forced. They have never, and I understand, like, I believe her opinion is that, we're Islamic, we don't have to show any kind of physical affection, or it's against the rules or whatever of Islam, whatever. And this is how Salah wants his household run. I think it's bullshit. I think, he absolutely is not interested in her, other than for what he can get out of her, aka Canadian citizenship. Yep, I think it's pretty obvious. And it's not it's the only person it's not obvious to is Chantal. Let's see. Immigration and legal concerns. Rumors circulate that Salah is attempting to immigrate to Canada using Chantal as a sponsor. See my previous comments. All right, further cat neglect allegations. Longtime pets BBJ and Sam are rehomed amid public outcry over alleged neglect. Viewers claim BBJ was severely malnourished and in poor health. So, all right, another aspect is that her animals were neglected. You can feed a cat and give them treats all day, but that is not taking care of a cat. They have to be seen by a vet regularly. They require vaccines. They require a whole lot more attention. If you're a good pet parent anyway, they require a whole lot more attention than just feeding and giving treats. And that's all that Chantal was willing to put into those cats, even though despite claiming that she loved them dearly. However, she did rehome them before she moved across the globe for this guy that she had met 2 weeks before they got married. Let's see. All right, we're getting into the more recent stuff. Late 2023, scandals continue despite the rebrand. Platform jumps. Chantal cycles between YouTube, TikTok, and a short-lived attempt at Twitch. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to mention it, but she actually had her channel deleted or removed. Or she was banned, or I don't remember, I believe, but her channel got taken down as if it didn't exist. Her channel was deleted, yeeted from YouTube. Feuds with reaction channels. Now, this is probably the only reaction channel that I will mention, is because this is probably her worst enemy. I'm going to say worst enemy because the only enemy, that's a whole nother subject. She attacks critics like FFG, aka French Fried Girl, and others, often threatening legal action or doxing. She has absolutely doxed FFG. She has said the most vile and horrible things about FFG and FFG's family, specifically her mother, who recently passed. I say recently, it's probably been a couple years now, or maybe a year ago. I don't remember. But this is probably the most... what word should I use here? This reaction channel in particular is probably Chantal's worst enemy, and Chantal comes for her very hard, despite there being a whole multitude of other reaction channels that say, comment on everything that FFG does. But for whatever reason, Chantal comes for her the worst. Let's see. Reverts to old behavior. Streams rage-fueled rants while wearing hijab. Oh, all the vile things, wearing a hijab. Now, in my opinion, if I were to see a hijabi woman on the street, I would not think that she would be spewing all of the vile things that Chantal would be spewing on the internet. She contradicts her Islamic beliefs on camera by cursing, overeating, and fighting online. She also disrespects her husband. She neglects her cat. Anything else that you could basically negate all of your quote-unquote beliefs in Islam. She has broken every rule. She has, if it were commandments, and this is the only thing I know to compare it to because I grew up in a denominational type Christianity situation anyway, it would be like a Christian breaking commandments constantly. That's what Chantal does. Early 2025. All right, I'm getting down into the bottom here. We're almost done. Most recent scandal, the kitten rescue controversy. Kuwait return again. Chantal returns to Kuwait to be with Salah once more. She had stayed, or was kind of forced to stay, in Thailand. I believe it was Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. She was in Thailand for 4 or 5 months, and that number might be off. She was there for months, multiple months, just holed up in a hotel room somewhere in Thailand, waiting on, again, visa issues. But she would walk herself down to the 7-Eleven at the bottom of the building and then walk herself right back up. Well, I say walk, but it was maybe she had to walk maybe a block, and she'd be on live when she was doing this too. But then she'd hop right back on the elevator back up to her room and just live stream and eat. And there was one time she shit herself on camera. I'm laughing because it is funny. If I can find that video, I'll post it down below. The most recent scandal, however, is why I'm making this episode tonight, because I feel like we're about to get into another popularity arc, and by popularity I mean infamous popularity, is that you don't want to be known for something like this. I believe that this was a cash grab, is that she attempted to rescue a kitten, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with her content or anything like that, but in Kuwait, as we've watched for the last, she's been there since 2023, we're 2 years in to her Kuwait arc. There are countless numbers of stray cats on the streets and in the parks and all that. And part of her trying to combat allegations of animal abuse, she tries to combat that by going to be do charitable acts like feeding these stray cats, oh, let's go feed the cats or something, as if that could negate your actual neglectful, abusive animal behavior. This kitten rescue, it was just a couple nights ago, or I could be way off. It was probably last week or something like that. She claims to have saved a street kitten in Kuwait. Starts asking for donations from viewers to help the kitten. Critics uncover that the story doesn't add up. No vet visits, no clear photos, and no transparent fund handling. Fundraising violation. In Kuwait, unlicensed fundraising is illegal. Her soliciting donations could constitute a crime under Kuwaiti law. Speculation grows that this may lead to legal consequences or deportation. So that is, and I know there's a whole lot more in the Chantal universe that we could dig into. There's a whole lot more details, a whole lot more things that we could get into, but this is basically in a nutshell what this woman's world is like. She is, I believe, if she doesn't leave on her own, I believe she'll be deported. There was a rescue group. It's called Pause Kuwait, PAWS, Pause Kuwait. And being that Chantal has a lot of hate watchers, I don't hate watch because I don't hate anybody. I don't have the time or energy to waste on hating people. But again, it's just the cringe-worthy content that I'm here for. there's a lot of people that are out for blood. There's a lot of people that are out to out her nasty behavior, and they probably believe as well that she was trying to grift. She was trying to make a little money out of this and claim that oh, donate, please donate, we're going to take it to the vet. Because, and there's another accusation too, is that she and Salah are broke. Is that you would see her do Temu hauls. Temu, I don't know if you're familiar. Temu is like Wish. It's one of those like one of those Chinese sites where you can get a bunch of stuff for super cheap, and the quality is very questionable at best. So the accusation is that Salah and Chantal are broke, is that they can barely afford, groceries. And there was an accusation again that they were receiving like food assistance. They would get, like a food pantry type box every month or something, or every couple weeks. And sorry, I'm getting notifications here. I get frustrated. Let's get back to, all right, the fundraising violation. I believe that she's going to get deported if she doesn't leave on her own accord. And one of her most recent live streams, she was on the verge of, just bursting. I mean, she did burst into tears, but I believe she was on the verge of like letting the mask slip, and completely like wanting to, I think everybody's waiting for her to rip the hijab off and just go back to the way Chantal was. And like I said, she was authentically herself, and that is probably the only thing that I admire about her. I have not enjoyed the Kuwait arc because she is, in my opinion, pretending to be an Islamic convert or a revert, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe that she believes in Islam. I don't believe she believes in Allah. I don't believe that. I believe she's all doing it. It's performative for Salah. So it'll be very interesting to see this next chapter unfold. And I believe that there will be a whole lot more drama to ensue. I believe that she might actually, I don't know if this will be the kick in her butt that she's needed her entire life. It could be, because she's been allowed to get away with so much in her life. She was very spoiled as a kid. She had everything that she could ever need. Now, I mentioned earlier that she didn't have a bad childhood, but she also didn't have the greatest. She was spoiled in that she was basically quieted and hushed. She was given a TV, she was given chips, she was given junk food, and she basically did not have to suffer any of her consequences for her shitty behavior until now. So this will be very, very interesting. Again, I am only covering like the major bullet points, and I've been talking for almost an hour. I could do a part 2 to this, but I feel like we've covered like the major plot points. If we want to get into like all the different side characters, if we want to get into the reaction channels, I could list my favorites. I could list my opinions on them. Again, I'm going to post up that Copyright Fair Use Act. Same with the reaction channels, is some of them are very copyright strike happy. They are very trigger happy with, trying to take down small channels like myself. This isn't a channel, it's a podcast. But if I were to upload this to YouTube, they'd come for me too, because I'm smaller and I'm unknown. I have maybe 6 followers over here. But if I'm saying anything disparaging or mean or anything that it's not to their liking, they would do the same to me, and they would nix me right out of the internet. But thankfully I back up all of my stuff, and I can upload elsewhere under a different name, just like some of you do. All right, I think we're going to end it right here. I really appreciate you listening to this one. This is actually the longest episode that I've ever recorded. I decided not to do a part 2, just went right on through it. I could keep going with this, but I think I'm going to switch over to a different LolCow that I have followed for years and years now. There's not really much more to him, but I'll get into him in the next episode. But thanks for listening along, and we'll catch you in the next one.